Test.
Is everyone set? All right. It's 7:07. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on to our 5 principles of Cruiser PLC.
Good evening. I get the pleasure of doing the 5 principles. Number 1, we focus on learning. Number 2, we collaborate. Number 3, we take responsibility. Number 4, we ask what are the results. Number 5, we decide what to do next.
Thank you so much. On to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirshner. Here. Mrs. Dauberberger.
Here.
Mr. Bauer.
Here.
Ms. Gray.
Here.
And Ms. Walsh.
Here.
All right, Madam Vice President, can you review the belief statement and board numbers, please?
Yes, sir. We believe all cruisers are valuable. We will unconditionally serve, support, and inspire. Therefore, every cruiser will maximize their unique purpose, potential, and power to produce the results they want. Board norms. As leaders of the district, we will always strive to 1. Support the mission and vision of the district. 2. Be prepared, informed, and ready for meetings. 3. Respect one another as elected representatives of the community. Be open-minded and recognize one another's strengths, the value of diverse perspectives, and mutual commitment to the mission and vision of the district. Number 4, allow members to complete their thoughts and statements before others comment. Allow members to be heard and listen to all perspectives with an open mind. 5, stay focused on the task at hand and respectfully redirect each other when needed. 6, maintain confidentiality and communicate per board policies. Ensure trust and transparency in all dealings. And 7, after a vote is cast, leave meetings united as one voice, no matter the outcome. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. On to the agenda approval. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dauberberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none. On to roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh.
Aye.
Mrs. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Dauberberger.
Aye.
And Mr. Kirshner.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to public participation. I have a something to read here real quick. All meetings of the board and board-appointed committees are open to the public. For the Board of Education to fulfill its obligation to complete the approved agenda effectively and efficiently, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation may be permitted at each regular Board of Education meeting. Each person addressing the Board of Education shall give his or her name, address, phone number, organization represented, and pertinent background information. If several people wish to speak, each person is allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. Persons desiring more time should submit the request in writing to the Board of Education office or email public.comment@gocruisers.org 7 days prior to the scheduled meeting. The period of public participation may be extended by a majority vote of the board members present and voting. Please remember that law prohibits discussion of specific employees or their job performance at a public meeting. State law does allow for discussions by board members regarding employees in executive sessions of the board. We have one public participant, Mrs. Elizabeth Simcox. Do you mind coming to the podium?
My name's Elizabeth Simcox, and I live at 4452 Dricott Road, Groveport, Ohio, 43125. I am opposed to this body voting to approve the contracts that are listed on this agenda, specifically the transportation or bus services contract and the special education / autism contract. Because the amounts needed to fund these contracts is so great, approval by the board should not be happening at a special meeting and instead should be voted on at a regular meeting only. Second, there is no study to support the approval of either of these contracts that has been released to the public that I am aware of or was able to find online. This is a total lack of transparency by this body and the district administration. I urge this group to move any vote on these contracts until the next regular meeting and when studies to support approval of either or both is available to the public.
All right, thank you. On to E, Superintendent's agenda.
The superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following certificated personnel items as outlined on the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mr. Kirschner as first, Mrs. Dowdleberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Duttelberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Kirschner?
Motion passes.
The superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following non-certificated personnel items as outlined on the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Dowdleberger as first, Mrs. Gray as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Duttelberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Kirschner?
Motion passes.
The superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the special education contract with Soliant.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dowdleberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Duttelberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Kirschner?
Motion passes.
The superintendent recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the bus addendum as outlined in the contract extension addendum file.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dowdleberger as second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say I appreciate the work of the treasurer and the explanation that he provided. And I think the services we're getting are good. It appears the value of this contract is good. The couple of exceptions that I take were the 2-year extension versus the 1-year extension. Also, as I requested, I think we should have had a transportation committee to review and better understand what was before us. And also, we received communication marked confidential. This was not a bid process. I think perhaps the contract of this size should be bid, but if we're simply renewing a contract without any competitive bidding, I'm at a loss as to how communication about such an item would be confidential. So I have some concerns about our transparency with this. That is all.
I would just like to thank the treasurer and the superintendent for meeting with me to go over this contract in detail. I appreciate them taking the time and going through it.
Same, I would like to thank the superintendent, treasurer, and Ms. Ritchie for going through the contract and answering some questions that I had based off of some comments and things from the community, as well as working with legal counsel on both sides with our current contractor and our staff. So thank you.
I would like to say that I also believe that maybe this should just be a 1-year contract extension, not a 2-year contract extension. I think we owe it to our constituents to have a committee to look at things a little deeper. I had asked for some documents. One of them was a T2C documents, and I did not receive those, and I guess we don't have those. That's a concern to me, as the Ohio Department of Education told me we're required to have those. So I think we need to form a committee, and I would move that we change this contract to be a 1-year contract instead of a 2-year extension.
Did you make a motion to move?
Yes.
Okay. Do I
I
have a
make a
second?
motion, I move that we change the contract to be a 1-year contract in lieu of a 2-year contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you have any additional things to share? Is your reasoning for the outside of the, you will want, just so I understand, you would like to have what else different? You know, we met with the team, the contract was available the last board meeting. You said something else. I just wanted to make sure I had it in my notes, Kathy. Was there something else that you wanted as the reason for the 1 year versus the 2 year?
Yeah, I think I would like us to have a committee to go over everything, do a data analysis on what it would cost to, what the changes would be, how we would handle we have a survey from the, I guess I want the rationale for why we don't want to bring transportation in-house. What are the specific reasons for not bringing transportation services in-house? Have we explored the costs and benefits of bringing transportation in-house versus continuing an outsourced provider? I would also, the quality and service concerns, you know, how does the quality of service compare between the outsourced transportation provider and what the potential in-house services would be? Is there a difference in timeliness, safety records, responsiveness to issues? What measures do we have in place to ensure that outsourced services provider meets our standards for reliability, safety, and student care? How do we monitor and evaluate the performance? Do we see those reports and those performance evaluation? Why is there no T2C reports? Would be another concern. What feedback have we received from parents and staff and community? Have we done a survey to see what their thoughts are on bringing it in-house as opposed to keeping it as an outsourced services? Have we done a survey at all to see what their satisfaction is? Those are just a few.
I would say that a lot of these questions have been addressed. My fear is the way they were addressed. It's great to meet with the treasurer, and I appreciate the input and the diligence they did. But what is missing when individual board members meet like this is the insights that the public would gather had
those reviews been done in public. So I'm just reiterating that issue. Where I'm concerned, I do think there's a lot of good in the contract. I just wish we would have fleshed it out more in public forum than we did.
I know in our discussions that I had, the topic was brought up and went into great detail of the reasons why we would not want to bring busing in-house, and I concur with their results that they determined.
I think the why and the how were well discussed. I think some of the financial details and benefits to the taxpayers, based on what they can see here and what we've discussed, I don't think there's a lot of visibility to that. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'm curious why we're adding to lease the facility to the contractor as opposed to how we have it now. Why is that change in there? What's the rationale behind that change?
What page are you on?
$1. Section 22 facilities, the third paragraph shall be amended to now read that the district will charge $1.
Right, because during negotiations, we was talking about different things during negotiations with CBS, and then we came to just a dollar amount off the base cost plus a reduction in field trips from over $109 an hour to $75 an hour, so more schools can go on field trips. And so instead of getting into the contract and doing all kinds of addendums, we said that two things will make it easier for everybody to understand, and so that's why we did the dollar lease. So this contract is going to save from the current year around $350,000 from the current year contract to next year, because the base cost is frozen, and there's a $250,000 reduction in the cost plus another $100,000 in cost for field trips and other athletic events and stuff that right now costs us $109 an hour. With this contract, it's $75. The sitting fee goes from 68ish to 69 down to 40, and then the next year it's only a 1.75% increase.
So leasing the facility impacts, but that was the question, was
Yeah, and there's no
the,
impact.
the contractor will lease the facility. The question was about that. That's not going to impact.
No.
Why did we add that is what the question was. Why did we add that?
It was in the contract before, so when we negotiated, we just want to keep it in there for $1, and that's all. So there's nothing.
So there's no change
There's
on
no
the
change.
lease amount.
Right. There's no change. Yeah, it's just $1. So there's
Well, it says it shall be amended to now read.
$1. Before we were talking about all kinds of stuff of $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and then when we came around, just the base cost of $250,000 decrease from this year, and the field trips being reduced by $100,000. That's why we just put it down to $1. So.
And just to reiterate what Adam's saying, in some of the earlier versions, there was a series of different credits and costs and leases and things like that. And through our discussion, Mr. Thomas brought up, if we're trying to identify a dollar amount, let's just make it clean and simple and take it off the top rather than through a series of credits, which makes accounting difficult and things like that. So that's why the lease, because it is a lease, it has to have, I think it has to have at least $1 assigned to it, right, because it's a lease, but also the savings were clarified and it made the tracking simpler for both sides in doing that.
And just so I understand, and this is what I'm thinking has happened, is you came to the table negotiating these various items that were on this list, and when it came down to the final decision, section 22 stayed the same.
Yes, and so
Okay.
yes, and that's why not everything's on here. It's just an addendum.
Yes.
And all five of you guys, I mean, I met with Kathy and John, I met with Libby, and then Seth on Twitter. Like, you bring it in house, and it's going to cost a lot more per year. I mean, close to $800,000 to $1 million per year if you bring it in house. So that's why this contract is very advantageous for the taxpayers and the community not to bring it in house.
In addition, what it also, as far as the cost, or the hourly rate for if we were to bring it in house, from what I recall when we met, we wouldn't be able to match that either, as far as the hourly rate, correct?
It's all up in the air now. This contract is simple. It's a 2-year contract. And again, CBS agreed for no base cost for us, but they're, you know, and then a 1.75 the next year is all. So
And that savings is or compared to what it would have been, bringing it in-house, that the cost could have been, that was on the low end of what.
yeah,
would be.
800,000 per
Yes.
year for the 2 years is on the low end, so it could have been over $1 million.
There was a question about T2 reporting. Teresa, would you mind coming up and addressing that at the microphone?
The T2C.
T2C?
The T2C is basically what Community Bus provides to us for all of their expenses. We take that and put that into our T2 report. So the 2T report and the T2C report are identical. They're the exact same things. And Terry will be able to provide that for you, but I can't click in my system and get their T2 report, T2C report, if that makes sense.
We only have the T2 report.
We only have the T2 report. They would put in the T2C report, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that's what we have.
I
access
was
to.
aware that they filled out the T2C and that helped us do our T2 report.
Correct.
So
So
I wanted to see
I can
yeah.
get all of that. I'll get that
But they're
information
supposed to
from
give it
Terry
to
and
the
have it to you.
district by July, and I assume that they've been doing that. So
So-
I'm
So
don't know
I
why
have
we
the
don't have 'em.
T2C for this year, but to previous years, I don't have access to that. That was handled by Mr. Reed.
So aren't they part of our records retention?
I wouldn't know where that information would be. That information was handled by Mr. Reed. So
It's probably on the hard drive somewhere.
yes, I'm assuming it's on the hard drive somewhere. But this year, when Mr. Reed was not here, was the first year that I was responsible for that. So
Well, see, those are the kind of things that I think we need to be looking at when we're making these types of decisions, not having all the data.
But the
And I
T-
still am concerned.
we've
why
never
we're
been
going from
questioned by the
2,000
Ohio
a month
Department of
to
Education
$1
about
a
our
month.
T report.
And is that included in the savings?
yes, it is including
Yes.
things like we explained, it's the base cost. And the T2 report, you don't have to worry about the T2C being different than the T2 report because, well, you can go, the ODE looks at that and gets.
Correct. Yes.
Make
And
sure
we-
the numbers are there.
It would be flagged if it was different.
And so,
Yep.
as far as since you've been here, we've not had any issues
Correct.
with that, correct?
That
With
is correct.
ODE, we've not had it, we've not out of compliance,
Correct.
not been
As
flagged
Ms.
or.
Free stated when she came here, we are in compliance with the Ohio Department of Education. We are not out of compliance in any form or fashion with the Ohio Department of Education.
Well, I don't
Um,
think anybody suggested that.
Okay.
No, you
I
just
need
mentioned
to
that we
stop
weren't
saying-
following
If
the
the reports
reports.
have numbers on them that are, you know, part of the data analysis you would do when you're making important decisions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussions?
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Thank you.
We need to vote on, her.
Yep.
So right now we're voting on Kathy's motion to have this go to a 1-year contract and not a 2-year contract. So
Correct.
that's what we're voting on now. Kathy firsted and John seconded. So I'll do roll call now. Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
No,
Mr. Bauer?
No.
Mrs. Dauterberger?
No.
And Mr. Kirschner?
All right, motion fails. On to the original motion by, it was motioned by Mrs. Gray, seconded by Mrs. Dauterberger.
Correct, sorry. I'm just gotta get through real quick. Okay. Mrs. Walsh?
No.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Dauterberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Kirschner?
Abstain.
Motion passes. On to, oh, sorry, on to you.
Item
Mr. Gray.
5, the superintendent recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the autism contract with New Story as outlined.
so moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dauterberger as second. Any discussion?
If I could, can I have Ms. Angeline to come up and just give us, I mean, you've seen obviously the language of the contract that's attached, but have her give an overview about what this is and what it would mean for us.
Good evening. And I'm not sure how much prior knowledge you have of this project that has been in the works prior to even my arrival. But this is a great opportunity for our community and for our kids. So what we're looking at with the contract, we have students who are already placed outside of the district. There's a big disconnect when our students leave us. They're not part of our community, but they're still our students. Being able to bring them back with the same expertise in services that they're getting, but having them closer to, you know, our schools, that we could eventually scaffold that support so that we could, my vision would hopefully be to integrate them back into public schools if and when they're ready. You know, these are students, when we're looking and talking about students with autism, and if you know the latest statistics, it's 1 in 31. You know, students are diagnosed with autism, and that is such an increase in a prevalence, and it's hitting everyone, you know, across the United States, but especially the school system. The needs are greater. I think the training and expertise that it takes for this kind of population is very different, and it's a struggle. So this opportunity to collaborate with News Story, like I said, we already have students who attend their program. They have different programs in Ohio, Pennsylvania. They have been one of the forefront runners as far as autism, and they have even expanded into other behavior elements as far as trauma, mental health, those kind of services. So they're really staying ahead of you know, the needs that we're seeing here. But the problem is that our students have to be transported so far. You know, they're closer to Dublin is where one of their locations that we're talking about with News Story is, but we have other locations around Franklin County. That is a burden for our kids to be transported that long at special transportation. This actually, even though it may seem like it's an expense, it's actually a savings to the district by bringing this in house, and we're not jeopardizing the services that the students are getting, which is really the main thing. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. I think it's very much in need in this area and for our community and for our students. So I think with the expertise that News Story brings to run this program and operate it, I think that's going to really make a big impact for our students in our community.
Adam, can I ask you a question, Mr. Treasurer? Do you have the transportation savings on that, or approximately with us not transporting the students out of the district if we were doing the collaboration with News Story that you could share?
Just a transportation or total?
You can give me transportation in total,
Okay.
please.
I know the total, like right now, as you can see, the contract we assigned today for Solent, which is News Story, is $89,000 a year for one kid, not including transportation. This contract you're gonna sign now, once we get up and running, it's not gonna happen right away, is only $58,000. Same services
Per student.
per student.
Okay, so okay.
So do the
That's
math
not
in that
counting
savings. That's not counting transportation.
And the
Transportation
89 was
varies
just the services, not the transportation.
So, right, and we have, of course, if you go back our board minutes, we have some of these kids more. I mean, this is like the third or fourth contract this high, and then there's another contract higher, a couple contracts even higher than that.
Absolutely.
So bringing these kids in house, number one, is best for the kids. It keeps them close to home, keeps them in the district boundaries. They're not having long bus rides. But then the second thing is it saves the taxpayers and the community money again. And in this contract, you'll see there's 36 spots. We would probably not fill all 36 spots. But that gives us also to go to neighboring school districts, which I'm not going to name them, but we had discussions with a couple of them who would also like to bring their kids here instead of having their kids transported an hour away. And there would be savings for us there too. Or actually, we'd be like a consortium, and we would bring in excess money for the district and stuff like that. So this is a great thing. And why we can do this is because we have the building. Nobody else has the buildings. We have the building over at 4500. And last year, I think you guys saw Mike when he did Epic. There was an autism wing, a JRTC wing that's still getting Excel.
Yes.
You guys saw all that already. But this is just the first stage. So this is, as of right now, this is no money going out. This is just a contract for them. But once we, can start working on that and get it ready for the kids when they come here, that's the savings that this community is going to see.
I have to give Mr. Collier kudos because he said he didn't answer that like a treasurer, because he said the most important thing is this is good for our kids. And then later, after we said not only is it good for our kids, and not only they don't have to be transported clear across the city and have those stressors and things like that, then he got to the fact that there's financial savings to the district. So we think we're actually really excited about this. On the southeast side of Columbus, there is not much available to do this. News Story has been a good partner with us, and you see the potential savings and putting things to use and having our kids here and not transporting them all over. We think this is a phenomenal opportunity that's going to be good for our kids and families, and honestly have a positive financial impact for the district as well.
I would just like to comment that I know, since I've been on the board for the longest, that we've used what it used to be Hogland, and they had such high reputation, and the parents in the community have really appreciated us having that service. So I'm thrilled that we're be able to bring these kids and let them be close to home, be close to their peers. It's going to be a great experience for them. I just appreciate everybody's hard work on bringing this together.
Same here.
Yes.
And I'm trying to bring it up real quick. My computer's actually looking weird. But anyways, I know it's $60. I think Buckeye Best is $60 each way per student. $80 each way per student. Another one's 40, and that one's 30. So when you consider that that's per student per day each way.
Usually individually
So
transported.
think of the transportation costs. And again, I'm trying to bring it up, but yeah, I mean that could be tens of thousands or more also. Like this is again best for the students, but also savings of taxpayer money.
Ms. Angelini, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm sure there's busing that we use. Do we have to use outside companies for certain students like TriStar, other things like that, which that's
Potentially. It really depends on the student need. There may still be some cases that students will need special transportation, but ultimately, depending on the needs of the student, we could do.
But what I'm saying, we're currently transporting, it's just not all yellow buses doing it.
No,
Sometimes we have to have outsourced service, which is
there.
an individual student and could be very expensive.
Since they're not on the bus routes, it's not usually an option to have that be something that we can transport. That's usually a contract for each of the students. And sometimes you can't put them together, even if they're going to the same location. So it gets very expensive whenever we're looking at transportation cost alone, let alone just contracting.
So will we be servicing students outside of the district through 4500 with this?
I think we will have the option to, yes, but our students will obviously take priority.
And how does that financial work?
I met with, sorry, my computer is acting weird when I minimize the board docs. So when we talked to No Story, there was a consortium in Pennsylvania that the school district did this, and like the guy said, the treasurer said, and the person said, you want to be the person housing the consortium because we have the buildings. But what they do is, again, so let's say a neighboring school district has the same contract that we just signed of $89,000 to New Story, but we're getting charged 58. So that kid then would come here, we'd be charged 58, and then we could charge that school district. We'd have to negotiate. It could be $75,000. So we would get the majority of savings. That school district also would save, and again, that would be better for those kids also because it'd be closer than driving to wherever they're going now. I mean, that's the whole thing about it. Is it's best for the kids, especially with the kids with autism and their all their
All their needs. It's a long ride. And then there's just a big disconnect with the districts and being able to monitor the students' progress. Like we're always welcome, but it makes it harder to get to Dublin and see our kids. And I think, like I said, our vision would be to get all of our kids back here if that's possible, and being able to partner with News Story and be right here. We can look at transitioning back, and whether that's a half day option or whatever that would look like, and have that support. Whether they're pushing into the classrooms and they're modeling that, there's a lot of opportunity to work. This seems external right now, but I think even internally, providing more support to get our kids to transition back to the district, because you're gonna have influx, kids coming back, kids going, and that's just the nature of the dynamics that we're working with. But there's a lot of potential there, and this is very innovative, and I think it's a great thing for Groveport and the community, and
so
definitely for our kids.
again, my computer, don't know acting up, but so I pulled it up, pulled the email up on my phone because Jamia and Jamie and her office did a great job. But like transportation costs, just for 3 kids at going to New Story right now, the total cost as of just a 414 this year is I did the math in my head, $80,000. That's just 3 kids going to New Story. And that's up as estimate cost as of 414.
And that's just the transportation cost.
That's just transportation costs. Now again, we would have some costs, but then again, could we do some, but it'd be greatly reduced.
So per our T report, to transport special needs students inside our own district costs us $1,211 a year. So if you do $160 times 170 days, it comes out to be $27,200 to transport a student outside of the district. So just to give you some perspective of the cost savings in transportation.
So how do we avoid the conflict of this almost, and I'm not against this at all, I'm just trying to understand. Um, it's almost like, hey, we have open enrollment for special kids, right? Versus, so in this case, you have open enrollment, in every other case, we don't. How do we avoid that?
And actually, I wanted to address that topic. Um, so as Ms. Angelini said,
I'm sorry.
as Mrs. Angelini said,
Yeah.
autism numbers are exploding. And our initial focus is to try to bring back the students that are already assigned out, bring them in-house. But we also realize that those numbers are going to grow. The seats that are available, we would never not serve one of our kids and have a student from outside the district come in. But if we have seats available and it's servicing and would actually provide a helpful return on investment for the district, that's why we're suggesting, because we're building some capacity, realizing that the numbers would grow, we could allow those open seats to be used until such time that we need them for our students, rather than just have partially filled rooms.
Right, and I got that.
Right,
I'm coming at that from the angle of, okay, let's take the exact same household, right? So here's my non-autistic child. They can't go to Groveport. Here's my autistic child. They can. It seems like we're creating a disparity for, yeah.
Yeah, so it technically would be open enrollment. So since News Story is essentially operating this, that's a contract. So it's not going to be an open enrollment situation. It's going to be like if they were going to that location because they're the provider.
Right,
It's
they're
not our
rolling
staff.
with
it's not
like a neighboring
Groveport
district, that means their kid, they're just coming here.
right.
It's just a
So
location.
it's no open enrollment. They're not our kids if they come here.
Mm-mm.
News Story will still be running the program and everything.
Because the
So that's why-
contract will be with News Story, not with Groveport. It's just that
Correct.
the leasing, that the collaboration between News Story and us is how the
So,
Correct. It's essentially the location of News Story is going to be added to Groveport.
so
it's an
you
addition.
you graduate. Where do you graduate from?
Whatever district, yes, whatever district you would be enrolled in, that would still be your district.
So
of
you're not. So if
residence.
you're coming from Pickerington for this, you're graduating from Pickerington, not from Groveport.
Correct.
Correct.
Awesome.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
And you said that, so there's 36 maximum, and how many do you currently?
Have total? So, and just to be clear with this population, so autism is broad, right? Like there's a reason why it's a spectrum. So there can only be a max of 6 students with autism in a classroom. Okay. So obviously with simple math with that. And the reason for that, this specific location and provider, we are talking about the neediest students as far as autism, whether that's nonverbal behavior, all the related services. This just isn't any student with autism that can go there. There's going to be a very specific criteria because we don't want that to open the floodgates of who this can serve. This is still focusing on that specific population that we are already sending there. We are literally just changing the location from where News Story is and adding that here to Groveport. So those same students that are attending there now are essentially just able to do that in Groveport. But the clientele and our focus is still going to be to that needier population of autism students, because we want to keep our students in our district and integrated and obviously adhering to the special ed laws and ensuring FAPE and least restrictive environment. And that's always our goal. So, but that's not every student. There are students that need more support, and that's what News Story offers for some of our kids, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do have questions, not just for you, for Adam. You said something about Solient, right?
Solent is also a News Story. Or sorry, Solent's good.
That was a different contract.
That's different.
That was
Sorry.
a different contract.
So Solent is what we applied to. It's a contract we approved today, but it's $89,000.
So this contract we have tonight
This
is for OT, right?
Yeah, that's
For
correct.
sorry.
occupational therapy, not for that.
I'll let you talk about
Okay,
that.
I just want to
That's
be
okay.
clear on that. And then, how many students do we currently have in it? These are students that are not being autistic students who are not in the classroom in the least restrictive environment. These are students that are not able to be in the least restrictive environment would be outside of the classroom. Is that what you're saying?
The least
And-
restrictive environment would be the general education classroom
Right.
with typical peers.
Right. But with these students that are going to be in this building are not able to be in, that would not be their least restrictive environment. They need to be in a separate facility.
It would be their least restrictive environment because that's what they
Okay.
need, but it wouldn't be essentially what is
Right.
classified
It would be
as
their least restrictive.
correct.
And how many students do we currently have that are in need of that type of least
I think I can
restrictive?
get you an exact number. We have several students who are out.
You don't
um,
know the exact number?
Well, because right now we're focusing on news story contracts specifically, and those students that we want to
Well,
bring
what was
back
it for
from
this
them.
past school year, right now?
And I don't want to misquote and misspeak. I mean, there are students that are out for autism. We have more than just news story as providers. So I'd have to look at. I mean, I have it on a spreadsheet, but we have other providers as well that serve our students with autism, and we have other students who go out for behavior issues. So that would have to be all. I don't know that number.
So do you have a ballpark number? I mean,
Like
we're here to
25.
discuss this today. It seems like that kind of
25,
information we
30,
should have.
I would say, estimate.
Okay. What'd you say, estimate? 25, 25 to 30. Okay. And during this discussion, I've been hearing a lot of can be, should be, might be. These should be definite. So I have a little bit of concerns about that. So basically, though, this is like we're outsourcing our labor. Is that correct?
No.
No?
It's what it currently is. It's essentially the same exact service that we
But
are
it's
providing.
not the same exact because we're going to be providing the facility. They're going to be coming to our district, to our
It's
facility.
we're providing
right?
the building, the location, the service is the same. We have the contracts already with News Story. So it's going to be the same services, same provider.
They're going to be coming into our district instead and be providing a service for us, and we're going to be paying them for labor services. Is that correct?
So they're coming to us, but we're already paying for this to be external. So the same thing, except the benefit is that it's coming here.
It's not the same because they're going to be in our facility as opposed to their facility. Is that correct?
It's the same services. It's a different location.
The same teaching services.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
they're basically how will this affect our current staff? We're not wanting to hire staff to provide the service ourselves?
I don't think to start a program like this that would be beneficial. The expertise that News Story offers, I think to get this started and started correctly and based on the needs of these students, I don't think our staff are equipped to handle that.
The reviews that I saw from the one news story though, were that there were concerns about their staffing, the staffing shortages, management issue, high turnover rates, burnout. How will those turnovers affect our students?
And I don't think that's just News Story. I think that's special education and education in general.
Well,
To
I'm
be
just
honest,
talking about
I don't
News
think
Story
News Story
right
is in
now.
any different situation than any other district. We all struggle to get staffing. And we've had conversations with them. I don't think staffing has ever come up, but that's an issue. We've been working on this. They're well aware of what's needed. So I don't anticipate that being a concern, especially with this not being started right away.
Who's going to supervise and evaluate the outsourced staff that we're going to be using? Are they going to be doing their own evaluations?
Yes.
What happens if the performance is unsatisfactory?
Just like
we
it would
find
for
it.
any other location that we
Can
have
we-
for our providers, then we bring the students back, find a different placement.
I mean, will we have the ability to say we want this staff member no longer here? It's not our staff
No,
member.
we're not
you're
in
saying.
charge of hiring their staff. No, that's not up to us.
But this is where like any provider we currently use. If we don't like it, then we can bring it back and choose a different provider.
How will we measure success, and how have we been measuring success with the outcomes from News Story? Right now?
News Story specifically, I mean, just communication in general,
Yes,
progress
News Story
reports.
specifically.
Yeah, specially designed instruction, the services that they get. All special ed students are issued progress reports every 9 weeks. So just like we do for any other special ed student, we continue to monitor that, have conversations, address concerns. It looks the same as any other provider location.
Okay. Have we talked to the union? Do they want to have their own staff in here, or have we discussed that with the union? And has there been a survey done with the union staff the membership?
Mrs. Walsh,
Membership.
these are students that are already outsourced because we can't meet their needs as needs to be internally.
I
What
realize
this decision is about, do we want to pay more and pay more for transportation to send kids up to Dublin to get this service, or do we want to have them locally and save money for the district? All of the other things are the same, it's just that our location. And we're going to be able to, Adam's done ROI to pay for the classes with the money that we're saving, and then it will be basically, after it's paid off, continued savings for us. So this isn't replacing any internal teachers. This isn't replacing anything that we're doing. This is a contracted service that we're able to provide locally and save the district money. All the other things as far as evaluation and rating and things like that would be the same as we were if we're paying 80 plus thousand and paying to ship them up to Dublin or another location to do that.
Excuse me, Mr. Superintendent. So I see they have a no compete where we won't try to hire their people away. You don't have any concerns about the vice versa of that, do you? Like them enticing any of our employees away, right? And I don't see that. Do you see any competition there that you would be worried about for our
I
employees?
can't answer that. I don't, off the top of my head, I would say no, but I would ask.
I would not anticipate that. It's such an area of expertise with additional training beyond what our staff have. I don't see that being an issue at all.
Thank you.
so. And you know, when we talk about this project, I really don't feel like I have enough information, and I don't feel like we went out to the public. We have policies for facilities development and facilities planning, and this has never really been part of the discussion. We don't have hard numbers in front of us, and I just don't. And then you're talking about bringing children in from another district, and that's another concern. We have responsibilities to the children in our district that are performing at a low rate, and I don't know why we would be going out. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we wouldn't just assign students from our district to this if that's not their least restrictive environment. The other thing is, if the board is concerned about outside students coming in to fill open seats, that would be a financial benefit to us. We don't have to do that. We could let there be open seats and not get the financial benefit of doing that.
I don't think that would be good stewards of the money of our district.
Any other discussion?
I think this should be a first read, and I'm just really think we need more data for this.
I do have just a quick question or a discussion or yeah, a question. The purpose of the contract today will be forced to prepare for next school year, correct? And delaying that, would that cause,
Yeah, it would essentially be delayed. We wouldn't be able to effectively start this. So we'd be looking at renewing the existing contracts that we
okay,
have over the years that would
be at the
financially
89K,
exceed what
at the
this would.
89,000 per student versus the
That's
58?
transportation.
And then we could look at it again whenever we did, it would be for the next school year, not for the school year that's coming, correct? I just want to make sure I had that. Okay, thank
Yes,
you, ma'am.
correct. You're welcome.
Any other discussion?
Is there a reason we didn't follow our policies on facilities developments and planning on this issue?
What policy violation are you referring to?
The facilities FA, I think it's FA and FB. I would have to, I mean, I would think you would know what those policies are. I'm sorry. I have to get it up. Hold on. I mean, have we had community input? Have we had any surveys? Have we had input from our staffs? Input from parents?
Why do we need to always go out for surveys?
FA states
Why
like
not?
Why do everything that you bring up, you say, have we surveyed them? Have we surveyed them? Have we surveyed them? It's like,
We don't even know what we're doing
We
right
have-
now,
we
we
have
don't
to
even
make-
know if our parents are happy with the service they've received. If we had a survey, they'd say, yeah, we're happy, or they're not happy, or whatever. I
They
don't
can
know.
call my office.
I
and
mean,
have
that's,
that conversation.
I'm just providing oversight, Libby. That's all. That's what I was put here to do, and I'm asking the
So am
questions
I.
that I feel like I should be asking so I can provide oversight.
And as superintendent, it's my responsibility to make recommendations that I think are in the best interest of the district and the students of the district. And it's always up to the board to state with your vote whether you think that's the right choice or not.
And I brought up FA. FA states the education program is influenced negatively by the environment. The development of a quality education program district facilities that help to implement it should be complementary. It is the board's goal to provide the facilities needed for the students in the district to provide the kind of facilities that best support and accommodate the education program and develop a long-range planning and evaluation program. The board recognizes that capital outlay funds are limited and that it must establish priorities in order to make the best use of the school building funds. Whenever possible, the culture as well as education needs of the community are considered. Architects employed by the board are expected to plan for specific design, style, and economics. That's all FA says, period.
Which policy was that?
FA.
Thank you.
The
And there's
building program is designed to provide adequate facilities and conduct educational programs for all students residing in the district. Since I've been here, we've spent money on primary one, on a bus garage, and now on this. But we didn't put walls into buildings that we could have done. So we weren't looking at them students at those schools. Instead, you want to keep pushing things that you feel are more important than they are. And that's a problem for me.
Is that referred to me? You said you. Who's the you?
Everybody who has participated in primary one, in the bus garage, and now another building facility with a lot of money spent, millions of dollars, and not addressing the other issue that has been right in our face for many years.
I think there was a facility committee that studied that and made a recommendation, which is why we have a bond issue on the ballot in May to work on facilities.
So if I could speak, if it's okay, just a couple things. I definitely hear on points, and thank you, Dr. Angelini, for your insight, and Mr. Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent, and Treasurer for putting this together. One, I know that we have seen the increase of autism. I do know that back in, I can't see what meeting, this is September 11th, 2024. We did have from August an innovation and accountability presentation that talked about the build out of that, where we had also went out for a grant and used those services. And we started speaking about the 4500 building and the bus garage. That was all a part of our ESSER funding, so we could then move that from here, which was already a plan. And then what we used for primary one, we also had several dollars in grant funding. I don't know the actual figure, so I will yield to our treasurer for that, just so that there's some clarity and context. But this is not the first time we've heard about the build out and about the autism school, because I remember that meeting and how we were all excited. I think we had some teachers here that were excited about that opportunity, even as yourself bringing in our students back to our district, as you mentioned. So this has been discussed about the options that we could, and I found it in our board docs. There was a video and there's a couple plans that were laid out to share, like the autism school, the tech and gaming room, the JRTC corner, and then some partner spaces on that design. That is available on board docs from our Wednesday, September 11th meeting, 2024, under innovation and accountability. So that is something that was forward facing for the public in addition to the entire board. And we all talked about that then and looked forward to, grants and things. And I believe this is a part of that first phase with you all presenting this to us this evening. So I just kind of wanted to make sure I went back and, as Ms. Walsh mentioned, our oversight, and brought that to everyone's forefront, that those plans and even a schematic is available on now. Specific square footage is not there for the record, but there is some sort of a schematic kind of breaking down what the various spaces in that building would look like if the public or those on our board would like to go back and reference that. So I'm excited about this. I think it is a great opportunity
to bring our students back and not have them go all the way to Dublin. And I do believe, from what I've heard so far from our public, not necessarily just autism, but even with our pre-K, that we're one of the few districts that offer those services and wish we could do more. So I'm excited to see this, and hopefully we can expand this further in addition to our pre-K services in our district. So thank you so very much, and thank you for your time. I yield back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other discussion? On to roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh,
No.
Mrs. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Mrs. Dutterberger,
Aye.
and Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to board member comments and or special announcements and other business. Item F.
I had a question, just looking for clarification. We were, we were looking for, independent, an independent investigation. We had selected a person, and then there was an update from the superintendent that we were gonna see, three options, from Ricker and Graydon, is it now? I always think of Eckler, sorry. And so could you tell us what happened, what happened with that process? How we landed where we landed?
There were three names given to us from Bricker. I think one of the names was a person previously selected. One of the names was a person who was a superintendent in Delaware County when I was also superintendent up there. The third person is an attorney, and those names were given to Mr. Bauer. Actually, Mr. Bauer and Adam Miller. I excused myself from that process.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Bauer, if you want to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
from there.
absolutely. And so out of those three, the third one, we wanted to make sure that there was no ties. So we had a true external investigation.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So in regard to Adam Miller, I'm really disturbed and concerned that he sent me a letter to my name, addressing me in what appeared to be trying to intimidate me by sending me registered mail and accusing me of FERPA violations in a matter that we all unanimously voted on. Further, I contacted the Ohio Department of Education, the FERPA, and I told them what we did. And when they got done laughing, they sent me a highlighted email. And basically the standard is that if it gets down to 5 to 10 students, if you, with no knowledge of the incident, can narrow it down to 5 to 10 students or more, you are good. I got this intimidating letter that because the letter H was used and an age was given, that there was some concerns for FERPA. If that was the case, that should have been addressed to the entire board. But for him to send that to me as an individual, first of all, and then call it confidential, Adam Miller doesn't work for me and I don't pay him. So he doesn't have confidentiality with me. He's the board attorney. So I really took it personal that he came at me personally. So I just want to share that. We were careful. We didn't do anything wrong. You can ask the Department of Education. Using a letter for a person is very common. The name was, honestly, the age was fictitious. He also accused me of naming the school, which I never did. So I have some real concerns there. I just wanted to share that with you. Also, I have no issues with the investigator. Don't know him. I'm glad I really appreciate everybody doing this. The descriptor of the investigation was something to the effect of investigating building administrators. And so I have compiled, we don't have to do anything here today, but I have created a motion to create a scope of work for this investigation, and I would just like to make the motion that we provide this to the investigator as a draft, and the investigator can do what they wish with it, update it, but basically give us a little better framework of what they'll be doing, since we did call for an independent investigation. I'll read my motion and appreciate your feedback, impact, and consideration, etc. I move to define the scope of work of the investigation outlined in the GM fee agreement from attorney Corey and Marty of Marty Law Offices LLC to include the investigation of a sexual harassment complaint in the district's response within the framework of student safety, security, and Title X requirements as a draft. The Title Title 9 addresses various forms of sex discrimination, including sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, and other forms of violence. Legal standards, the investigation must adhere to due process protections, including the presumption of innocence, the right of fair process, and the right to present evidence and witnesses. The investigation process will include an initial report. A report of sexual harassment must be filed either by the complainant or by the Title X coordinator. The investigator shall work to determine that this report was complete and accurate and submitted correctly. A notice to party, both the complainant and the respondents must be notified of the investigation, including the details of the allegation, their right to advisors, and the process for resolving the complaint. Again, these are ideas. I'm sure that the attorney will have clarifications and may wish to change some of these for our own protection. Gathering information, the investigator will gather evidence, include statements from the complainant, respondent, and witness, as well as other relevant documents and information. Interviews. The investigator will conduct interviews with all parties involved with respect to their privacy and with the involvement and cooperation of the parents, and with great care to ensure the involved students are treated with care and sensitivity. Review of evidence. The investigator will review all evidence gathered, including physical evidence, witness statements, and other relevant documents, and recommend additional documentation if such documentation is not in compliance or is incomplete. Findings and determination. The investigator will make findings based on the evidence and determine whether the respondent violated the Title X regulations. Decision maker. The board will review the investigator's finding and determine the appropriate course of action, which may include disciplinary measures. Outcome and appeals. The outcome of the investigation will be provided to the Board of Education. The board reserves the right to review the investigative results and request further clarification or recommended actions. Key considerations. Confidentiality. The school district must maintain confidentiality during the investigation while also providing the necessary information to all parties. Impartiality. The investigator and school board must remain impartial and avoid any bias. Due process. The investigation must adhere to due process protections, ensuring a fair and impartial process for all parties. Documentation. All aspects of the investigation must be thoroughly documented, including the steps taken, the evidence gathered, and the findings. Timeliness. The investigation must be completed within a reasonable time frame. Remedies. If a violation is found, the school district will take approximate action to remedy harm caused by the sexual harassment, which may include disciplinary measures, training, or other restorative measures. I would just like to submit that as a motion, and just so that we have something more than one sentence that says we'll investigate a student matter, and administrators, the school administrators or building administrators, and also to clarify, kind of what we're getting for our $275 an hour. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have concerns that I thought at a special meeting you're not allowed to add items to a special meeting.
I understand that. We had special announcements or other business on the agenda, so this is other business. I know we've made exceptions before, and I am simply making this motion that we present this as a rough draft for input back from an investigator that we've already hired, and we've already outlined to a point what it is we're getting. So I think this is pretty much administrative in function.
So this is just a first read, you're saying?
Say that again, please.
This is just a first read.
The motion doesn't.
That would be fine. If we have time for that, we're not holding up a process.
The motion doesn't read as such, though. So if I'm voting on this does not read as a first read. So that was the question I had when you had.
Right. If we want to treat it as
with,
that, do we have time for that, Mr. Superintendent?
So, Mr. Superintendent has recused himself from
Okay.
this.
Absolutely.
This week it's starting. So, investigation.
And then if that's the case, then if we're going to provide a scope of work, then I would have liked to have if that was the plan,
Well, the
having it
other,
within
yeah,
48 hours would have been great for the meeting. Because
well,
then if I had anything to add, I could have done the same as well. But so this is, I thank you for presenting and sharing this with us this evening. But I would have liked to have had more time to then also have input if this is what you're asking the board to concur with.
right, and I would agree with that. I just received this letter, and I'm just told this was beginning today. So,
But we knew we voted on the investigator. That's what I'm just saying. If that was the plan to ever do the scope, we knew that we were looking at the independent investigation a month or so ago.
Right.
So I just would like to have had more time. That's all.
right, yeah, I
Just
agree.
like you
I
guys
agree.
wanted
I
more
was
time
expecting
with the resolution.
the only reason I brought this forward is because we didn't really get a scope. I was really surprised by the letter, and it was just basically one sentence and 275 an hour and that kind of thing. So I was really surprised by what was provided, and it doesn't provide much depth. So,
And as to the timeline, I do believe that they're trying. This investigator is trying to have it completed by the June board meeting, so that we can have it for discussion.
okay, so I just want to know that that isn't just internal shuffling of papers. That this is really investigated.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's why it took some time to make sure that there was no ties with this investigator. That this is a true external investigation.
Right. Okay. So again, I would just like it spelled out that there will be interviews, it will be thorough, etc. So if
If I could, I know if I would like to make a motion that this will be the first read. And then when we come back in May, we can vote on the final scope if that's the case. I understand, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have, if not, then
I
that's
don't
my
know if that's
motion.
going to
Delay.
is, I guess, one of
Well, just because with what's here, it says like,
so
there's a couple things that I would want to probably clearly define if we're going to go in this much detail as far as what we're requesting of them and based off the letter. And I apologize if there's been something sent. I've had deaths in my family and folks sick, so I've not checked anything else unless it was specifically brought to my attention. But it was talking about the timeliness. I would have liked to have identified a time frame if that's the case. It says reasonable. What's reasonable? So like little things like that. If we're going to be like, for my background, if we're going to put something like this out, we should be very specific. So that's why I would like to make a motion. If someone was a second, great. If not, no big deal. That this is a first read. At least so this doesn't. It votes don't go the other way. I at least want to ask for a first read so I can have time and add things to it with this just now being presented today.
Can I suggest that maybe we make a motion to postpone it to the May 13th meeting, and then that will give everybody an opportunity to make their notes on it, and it would basically be a first read.
and we're talking adding 3 weeks to the
Right.
time of the investigation potentially, correct?
Yeah.
Well, unless
So
you have
I guess that would be my question: is the board okay with then if this might delay the process?
I'd personally much rather feel better that we know that we're getting the depth and breadth and a proper investigation than worry about having it done 2 or 3 weeks early. And I understand what you're saying, Latoya, but I think in an investigation, it's hard for. I don't think it would be fair to us to try to nail them down on even a June 1 deadline today, because oftentimes you just don't know where the questions and investigation is going to take you by way of a time frame. Yeah. So I will amend my motion, excuse me, to make this a first read. Or actually not even making a motion. We'll just make this a first read. Yeah. So I withdraw my motion. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Special announcements or business?
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Celebration of Cultures next week, Tuesday night. Can be a big night at the high school. It's been all over social media, but I just throw it out there.
What time is it? Sorry, I think it's 5:30.
I got it.
Hold
Hold on.
Double check.
I got it right here. Hold on. I got it right here. I just had it up. Hold on. And when
I can look it up. It's is it 5:30? Okay, thank you.
yes. And shout out 5:30, 7:30, and shout out to our comms team for doing such a great job in ensuring that the community is aware. This is one of our larger events, one of our staples, which a lot of people just love it. So thank you to all those that are working hard on this to make sure that we celebrate all the cultures that are represented in our district. I'm really excited about that.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
And Mr. Kirchner is first, and Mrs. Walsh is second.
I just wanted to, I don't know.
It's not me.
Mine's off.
Since I won't be here for the next meeting, I will report on the student advisory for the elementary at the June meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, I have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Kirschner, seconded by Mrs. Walsh. R2, roll call, please.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Dutterberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Kirschner?
No.
All right, it is 8:15.
All right.
We are adjourned.